Hi, Catherine. Let's see. Mirisha, I love your demo. Do you use Oxide glaze? Let's see. I don't think I've used Oxide glaze before. No, I have not used Oxide glaze, but I'm willing to try it out. What is my favorite technique? I can't say I have one. I don't. In all honesty, I really don't have a favorite technique. I love venturing out and creating different things and using different techniques when I create my cards. So I can't narrow it down to one, unfortunately. Is there an oxide glaze or a distress glaze? Let's see. Are you speaking of the cards that I created? Because I just used, for this card, I used Pops of Color. It is actually the gloss. Um, Pops of Color for this card. And then for this card, I just used regular oxides, distress oxides. Let's see. I do. I do. I love gospel music. I listen to that when I'm creating. Sometimes I will turn on Netflix and just listen or a podcast while I'm creating. So, what was the product that you put on to make it shine after heat embossing? Um, are you speaking of this card, Tammy? If it was this card, all I did was add the gloss Pops of Color. So scrapbook.com has Pops of Color, but in different, like this one is a gloss, and then this one is a glitter, and then they also have a pearl. So I basically just applied the Pops of Color to the panel. I allowed it to dry first, and then I ran it through my die cutting machine in the embossing folder. Do you put distressed microglaze on thinly? The glaze that I applied to this card, yes, it's very thin, very thin. What was the jewel tool that I used? Actually, you can use a wax pen. It's often used in the bling community. It's a wax tip on one end, and then the opposite side is just a little metal piece on the end to help maneuver your jewels or embellishments that you're applying to your creations. There's also a jewel picker that is available at scrapbook.com. Just type in jewel picker and it will populate in the search engine. Thank you for your question, Joyce. Do you do any other crafts? Which ones? I actually do. I create. I love bling projects. I create chunky knit blankets, felt projects. I love to sew. I love to dabble in many crafts. Do you send out any cards for the holidays? Do you make holiday Christmas cards throughout the year or just before? Thank you for your question, Kinser Crafts. I do send out holiday cards. I love sending out cards even throughout the year. I've actually already started creating my Christmas cards. I started those back in June. Back in June, yes. Hello, when using White Hero Arts white pigment ink, it never seems to dry. Yes. What tip can you offer to dry so it doesn't come off on my fingers? Well, like this one, you have this is a high pigmented ink. It is. So it has to like it's gonna take a while to dry, but normally I apply some heat to it, but since it is a pigmented ink, as you see right here, it's going to eventually like just a little bit come off, unfortunately. So um I'm gonna have to test that out. Maybe try applying a clear coat, like a clear. If you want your project to be glazed, then maybe apply glaze on top, or like a clear medium to where you can seal it to where it doesn't come off. But it will somewhat come off just a little bit. Yeah, unfortunately. Are there things to consider when using oxide inks? Talia, thank you for your question. Um, I love distress oxides. They are my favorite mediums. Um, what do you mean in detail as far as what things to consider when using oxide inks? I know for me, what I love using them because they give me a good blend. I prefer oxides over inks. That's just my preference, though. I love that I can um, add water to them, like sprinkle some water on them and then lift the water with a paper towel to create the splattered look. I love that. I love how they're creamy. I just love that look of a distress oxide. And not only that, you can stamp with them. You can also emboss, like use embossing, clear embossing powder. So let's say, for instance, if I wanted this whole background to shine, all I would have to do is apply the oxide, sprinkle it with some clear embossing powder, and then apply some heat, and the whole background will shine. So that's a plus too. Oh, tell us about the Diary Bell Rose. The Diary Bell Rose is um it is in honor of the memory of my grandmother. Um she loved roses, so it is my creative diary that I have dedicated to her. When I was younger growing up, um we created together. We sewed, we played piano together. She taught me how to sew by hand. We did so many things together. And she kept if anyone knows about the big, thick photo books, she would keep a lot of pictures of my projects and things that I would bring home from school. My pictures, she kept that. That was her diary. So I named the Diary Bell Rose after my grandmother. So I do this in her memory. Can you use hairspray on sealed pigment inks? I know it works for chalks. I don't remember hearing that somewhere. Not sure. Oh, now Kinser Crafts. That's a great. I never knew that. I'm definitely going to try that out. So clear hairspray. That's a first. I'm definitely going to try that out. Thank you for that tip. Hi, Catherine. I don't remember where the additional snowflakes from a die. Yes. So the die cuts, uh, they are from scrapbook.com. There's a snowflake die set, and they have larger snowflake dies, and these are the smaller ones that are uh, in that set. Thank you for your question. What kind of projects do you have going right now? Well, I recently finished blinging a pair of M&M Crocs. Yes, they turned out so cute. You can check them out on my Instagram page. I recently actually posted them this morning, the reel. So you can head on over to my Instagram and check those out. I love how they turned out. Someone mentioned yesterday that hairspray is non-archival and it may yellow. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, I've never tried the hairspray method, but yeah. How long have I been crafting? I have been crafting for years. Many, many years. course, I did some things when I was little, created, I used to sew pillows by hand, create little felt dolls. But over time, I have ventured out into other things that I create, like with my Cricut. I have a background in event planning and decor. So I created a lot of the props for my candy buffet tables and for the events provided here at Royal Events. How do we follow you on Instagram? Just search your name. On Instagram, you can look me up at Mirisha Dean or at the Diary of Belle Rose. I am on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And you can feel free to head on over to my website at thediaryofbellerose.com. Mirisha, I love the Distress Oxide card the best. I have had Distress Oxide pads for over a year, never used them this weekend. They saw, oh, Helen, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad. I love Distress Oxides. Like, I grab them all the time. I love how they just, if you check out any of my YouTube tutorials, you'll see I'm always grabbing the Distress Oxides. I love Oxides. Hi, Ruth. Is Tsukino Memento ink pads good to emboss with, or do they dry too quickly? I've never used Tsukinico Memento ink. I've never used those. I'm sorry, Ruth. Crafty Kim, can you put clear embossing powder on white pigment ink to help set it? I have tried it with Catherine Pooler dye inks. Yes, now I have stamped with the white pigment ink and used clear embossing powder to emboss with, and it's fine. So that, yes, that could be an option. You could apply clear embossing powder on top, but here's the thing, you need to make sure your bottom, your base with the oxide background is completely dry. If not, then the background will emboss as well, and the embossing powder will stick to the background. So yes. Thank you, Crafty Kim. Tanya, hello. As a new card maker, would you suggest buying dye inks or distressed inks? So many people seem to like Catherine Pooler inks, and I was trying to decide whether to get some while she is having a sale. Well, here's the thing. I have a set of Catherine Pooler inks as well. I love her inks. I love how the the ink pad is very saturated. I blended with her inks before in the past, but I just seem to always gravitate to oxides. So, and I have also tried distress inks, but my preference too is Catherine Poole. I really like her ink pads. So yeah. Jody's Unique, hello. Are there any products you should not use with oxides? I haven't come across any yet where I've had any issues with mixing mediums with the oxide. I personally haven't yet, but I'm sure there's probably other tutorials out there from other makers who may have had been faced with a situation where they mixed certain mediums with the oxides and it didn't turn out how they wanted it to. So I'm sorry. Yeah, I haven't come across any of that as of yet. What is your preferred cardstock to use the distressed oxides? Hello, Helen. In all honesty, this cardstock right here is from, this is the Lacebo white cardstock from cardstockwarehouse.com. I also use cardstock from Michaels, the white cardstock from Michaels. So yeah, those are my go-tos. Harriet has fixed Marisha's IG. Oh, thank you. Do you prefer the Catherine Pooler minis or full-size ink pads? I have the full-size ink pads. And I love her ink pads, just how juicy they are. And not only that, not only have I inked with them, I've also used them to create watercolor projects. Yeah. You're giving me some ideas to head back over to my Catherine Fuller inks because I normally just use the Oxides. Hi, Ruth. If you use clear embossing powder, does it show the color of the ink you use to stamp with or just melt black? Mm-mm. Whatever color ink that you use to stamp. So let's say, for instance, if I decided to add clear embossing powder to this sentiment right here, the wishes, it's going to be black. So if I stamped it in blue, red, as long as it's clear embossing powder, it's going to reflect the ink color that was stamped below. What tools do you reach for most? My mint tape. I love scrapbook.com's mint tape. I love it. My Misty, of course, because I stamp. My Platinum 6. And yeah, it's the mint tape for me. Like basically on every project, I'm pulling out the mint tape because you can use it to mask with, you can use it to secure your dies in place, to run them through the die cutting machine. So many fun things you can use with mint tape. Love it. Catherine Hodgson, I have some Tim Holtz spray stains. How do you use them? I have some spray stains too. I love spray stains. So with them, with these, I have used them to spray the backgrounds, allow them to dry, just play around with them. I've even sprayed them on my glass mat and watercolored with them. So I just play around with them. So hello again, Shannon. Do you use the same blending brushes with oxides as you do with dye? No. My blending brushes are separate. I do not mix my blending brushes at all. They're separate. And the blending brushes I use, and honestly, I brought some blending brushes from scrapbook.com, very soft. They allow me to have a good blend with the oxides and inks on my cardstock. And also I bought some from Amazon. Yes, just as long as the brush to me is soft, it helps give me a good blend. So hello again, Kinser Crafts. Do you take time every day to craft? How do you organize your daily life and make time for card making? I've been thinking more about this since I've been getting ready for my son to return to school. Oh, that's so sweet. Here's the thing. I don't take time every day to craft because I don't want to go through a burnout stage. I take time to do other things that I love to enjoy doing, like spending time with my fur babies, just different things that I enjoy doing. So, and then I allow myself time to rest. So, and then there's stages where sometimes I will go through a flow where I'm like, I'm just in the mood to create. And then I'll go in like 4 or 5 days straight and create stuff. But then other times I'm just like, no, let me allow myself to rest because I don't want to burn out because I love it. I love creating. You want to see my dog? Okay. I have 2. Here's Molly. Oh, my little Molly. And here is Heaven. Molly has a birthday on Tuesday. She's turning 3. And then Heaven is 10. She'll be 11 in March. So these are my fur babies. Where do I get inspiration from? That is a great question. Oh, thank you, Catherine. Just I could get inspiration from this shirt. I get inspiration from magazines, just different things I see. Like I could take this top and find a striped background pattern paper and create a card from it. Just anything, anywhere that I see. I could be outside walking, get inspiration from nature to create. So I believe that inspiration is all around us, everywhere. Yeah, thank you, Kath. Yes, that's my precious heaven. Oh, thank you, Debbie. Thank you. How do I stay organized? Hi, Judy. Thank you for your question. Well, like I'm doing today, once I finish, I did it before the live. I have to go back. I like to go through my items, things that I don't see a need for anymore. I donate them, give them to others. I like to go through my stash and make sure I keep things in order and stuff. Now, every now and then, some things get unorganized. You have to put them back in their place. But yeah, I just find time to periodically just go through uh, my items in my craft space and um, keep them organized. What would be the one tool necessity for card making? Hi, Dr. Lisa Choice. Thank you for your question. Um, I can't just pick one. To me, if I say a top three, if you don't mind, I would say a um, die cutting machine, definitely. Scoreboard, because you can do a lot with a scoreboard. Yes, you can. Um, and a paper trimmer, because, oh, and the Misty, make it four. Because to me, those are the main things that I need to create my card projects and paper projects. You want to see them? Okay, let me get them. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Here they are. They're M&M Crocs. Here they are. Yes. I love M&Ms. To know me is to know my love for M&Ms. From Nancy, not sure why it shows initial only. How do you decide what products, mediums to use when you sit down to make a card? That's a great question, Nancy. Okay, I have a focal point and then I build from there. So, for instance, with these cards that I created, my focal point was the background. And then from there, I built from there. So I come up with a focal point that I want to have on my projects. And then from there, I build from there. I bring in the sentiment and things like that. So I always, when I go into a project, whether it's a stamp, whether it's a die, I think about the focal point and then from there, I build from there. Would you suggest a newbie to get a machine that both embosses and die cuts? Um, the die cutting machine does do that. It will, well, the one I have, the Spellbinders Platinum 6, it does that. I have a video on my YouTube channel that you can go check out where I did an unboxing and I show you different ways on how you can use um, that machine. But it does emboss. It uses embossing folders. Um, you can die cut with it. Yeah. It just depends on how you create your sandwich. Hello, Kathy. I have a chemo nurse who would love cross. Oh, Kathy. How do you select your focal point? So let's say, for instance, there's a card I recently actually made it yesterday. My focal point was a whale. That was my focal point, the well. And then from there, I built from there. I created the background. I added the sentiment. So I start with one item first, and then from there, I build around that. And then it depends on what I need to create. Oh, it's time to wrap up. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Brandy, and everyone that sent me some love for hosting this event and having me. I appreciate you all so, so much. Thank you.